If you have a PlayStation 5, you've most certainly come across the message that you're running out of disk space. And that's no surprise, as the PS5 comes with an internal SSD of 825 GBs, but only about 670 of those GBs are usable, and with an average game size of over 100 GBs, it does not take long before you fill up that SSD. Now, you've certainly noticed there's USB ports on the PS5, both USB-A and USB-C, and you've probably wondered, can you add an external hard disk to use as external storage? And the answer is yes, but it's not like you think. As you know, PS5 games are very resource intensive, they're very high on graphics, and as such they require very fast SSDs to keep up with that performance. And unfortunately, that speed cannot be achieved via an external USB connection, even a USB-C one, and even if you attach an SSD, which is normally quite fast, but it's not fast enough. Now, while you can attach an external hard disk or an SSD, the PS5 only allows you to store external games there, but you cannot run them or play them from the hard disk itself. So then whenever you want to play them, you will have to copy them back to the PlayStation's internal SSD. Fortunately, there is a solution to expand your PS5's internal storage, and this is by using something like this. This is an M.2 NVMe SSD drive, and it's really fast. And the PS5 has a slot where you can plug this in. This particular model is the Platinum P41 from SK Hynix, and a special thanks to SK Hynix for sending this across. And yes, this was sent to me for free, however, it does not affect my review, which remains objective and unbiased. Being an M.2 NVMe is not the only requirement for the SSD, it also has to have sequential write speeds of at least 5,500 megabytes per second to keep up with that resource-intensive games. Luckily, the P41 from SK Hynix has sequential read speeds of up to 7,000 megabytes per second, so all is good. Now, these SSDs do run very hot, and this is why you also need to attach a heatsink to help with cooling and heat dissipation. And fortunately, SK Hynix also have a heatsink that is specially designed for the PS5. So let's take a look on how to install these. First thing you want to do is remove the cover, and this is going to be the cover opposite the one with the PlayStation logo etched. Now, removing the cover is a little bit tricky. It does need a little bit of force, but not too much force, otherwise you're going to snap it. The trick to removing it is to apply upward force, but also at the same time make sure to push it backwards as well. It does take some force, but not too much. So if you feel it's stuck, make sure you're lifting upwards and then pushing backwards at the same time. Once you remove the cover, you're going to see the faceplate that covers the expansion slot. Use a Phillips screwdriver to unscrew that and put that aside, and there you see it. That's the expansion slot. There's a screw and a spacer over here. Remove those and then simply plug in the SSD until you hear a click sound to make sure it's in place. Now, there's a very important tip over here. Make sure that the spacer is below the SSD. That is, the SSD needs to sit on the spacer, and then the screw comes on top to secure the SSD in place. Once you have that securely attached, now's the time to install that heatsink, and that's quite easy as well. There's an adhesive on the back of the heatsink. Peel that off and simply place it on top of the SSD, and then screw it back with the Phillips screw that you removed. And that's all. Put the console cover back on, this time pushing it forward to make sure it snaps into place. Reattach the power, HDMI, and the Ethernet if you use that. And when you turn on the PS5, it's going to recognize that you attached an SSD, and it's going to ask you to format it. Go ahead and do that. As you can see, it tells you the sequential read speed, and it's about 6,500 megabytes per second, which is well above the 5,500 megabytes per second that is recommended by Sony. And that's about all. Once you have the SSD installed, you can go into settings to define if you want new games to be installed on the internal SSD or the external one, but you can also move games from the internal SSD to the external one. I've been using this SSD for quite some time, and it's blazing fast. I've noticed absolutely no change in gameplay, and I'm quite happy that I can install way more than the 4 or 5 games on my PS5, and I can update them all without getting the low disk space message. I'll put links in the description to the product page of the SK Hynix P41 and the heatsink. And as always, thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section. And as always, if you liked the video, please hit the like button and consider consider subscribing to my channel, as this encourages me to continue producing content. Until next time, cheers.